Good evening and welcome. Chief Executive Designate John Lee and many guests checked into hotels today as part of closed-loop arrangements ahead of the 25th anniversary of the handover. President Xi Jinping may visit Hong Kong as soon as tomorrow.
The press must also comply with closed-loop arrangements, but authorities have requested several media outlets to replace journalists they've already assigned to cover the events, citing security reasons. Sharon Tang reports.
Chief Executive Designate John Lee and his wife arrived at Grand Hyatt Hong Kong in Wan Chai at around noon today. All attendants of the celebratory events for July 1st are required to stay at a designated hotel beforehand. More guests checked into the hotel this afternoon, including Vice Chairman of the Basic Law Committee Maria Tam, Chief Justice Andrew Cheung, and Chairman of CK Asset Holdings Victor Lee. Security was beefed up in the vicinity. Sources familiar with the matter said President Xi Jinping may arrive in Hong Kong with his wife Peng Liyuan via high-speed railway at noon tomorrow at the earliest. His itinerary may include meeting different sectors, paying visits to the Science Park and the People's Liberation Army Hong Kong garrison, while Peng may visit Xiqiu Center. But there's word the state leader will return to Shenzhen tomorrow and come to Hong Kong again on Friday to attend the inaugural ceremony for the sixth-term government of the Hong Kong SAR. Meanwhile, Macau Chief Executive Ho Yat-seng will make a 3-day visit to the city and attend celebratory events for the handover. His delegation is subject to daily testing and closed-loop arrangements as well. Also undergoing closed-loop arrangements at a different hotel in Kowloon Bay are reporters who will cover July 1st ceremonies. Each news outlet can only send one reporter and each room will only accommodate one person. Staff members would also check the reporters' nucleic acid test results from the past 3 days. Today, multiple news outlets that were invited to cover handover events were told by the authorities to change their reporters, citing security reasons. Those affected including the government's own news service and pro-Beijing outlets. But even if the reporters are replaced, they will not be able to fulfill the testing requirements given the time constraint. Rita Fan, a former member of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, said press freedom is not being undermined as the government only requested a change of reporter. Former Secretary for Justice Elsie Leung, meanwhile, believes the government does not have a blacklist of journalists. The Information Services Department stressed it has made a balanced decision between journalistic needs and security concerns. The Hong Kong News Executives Association called the arrangements chaotic and demanded explanations for the last-minute changes. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
President Xi Jinping could be coming to Hong Kong via Shenzhen after his tour of Hubei province.
When Xi visited the city of Wuhan, he was briefed on Hubei province's anti-pandemic work. He also spoke about China's strategy for fighting COVID. Caleb Leung has details.
Accompanied by leaders of Hubei province, President Xi Jinping visited a laser engineering company in the city of Wuhan. Xi said it is important that China is able to develop science and technology on its own because it will make the country's development more independent, self-reliant, and secure. The president also listened to a report on the province's anti-epidemic work. Xi said China's strategy to tackle the pandemic was correct and effective and should be firmly adhered to. He added that if China had adopted the herd immunity policy or a lying flat approach, the country would have faced catastrophic consequences given its large population. Even if there are some temporary impacts on the economy, the country will not put people's lives and health in harm's way, Xi said. It is believed that after Xi concludes his visit to Hubei, the president will continue to head south to Shenzhen and take the express rail to Hong Kong on Thursday. Wuzhou Guest House, a hotel in Shenzhen which previously accommodated state leaders, is temporarily closed, citing anti-epidemic reasons. Shenzhen authorities announced that drones are banned throughout the city until July 3rd to ensure celebration events in Hong Kong can be held successfully. Meanwhile, state media People's Daily has published a front-page article on maintaining Hong Kong's long-term prosperity and stability. The article said the enforcement of the national security law in the city has dealt a strong blow to the radical force of Hong Kong independence and brought stability back to society. The law is also an important milestone to the development of one country, two systems. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
In other news, the Hong Kong Observatory will consider issuing the standby signal number 1, the city's lowest typhoon warning, tonight. The weather forecaster says a tropical depression in the South China Sea has already entered within 800 kilometers of Hong Kong. The tropical depression is expected to bring squally showers and unsettled weather to southern China on July 1st. The observatory adds there will be rain and strong winds from tomorrow onwards.
On the 1st of July, winds over some parts of the territory will reach strong force. Under the influence of the outer rain bands associated with the tropical cyclone, the local weather will gradually deteriorate with squally showers, thunderstorms, and swells. After tropical cyclone making landfall and under the influence of an active southerly airstream, there will still be occasional showers this week.
Hong Kong logged more than 2,000 new COVID infections today, with 155 imported cases. It's the highest figure since mid-April.
Health officials say the daily infection tally in this city has been rising steadily over the past few weeks, but it is still unclear whether the latest upsurge in cases will peak soon. Christy Khan reports.
Hong Kong reported another record daily high of coronavirus cases hitting 2004. Among them, 270 positive cases from some 180 schools. And 3 schools suspended some classes due to suspected clusters. 3 more residential care homes reported COVID infections involving both carers and residents. Close contacts of the patients were sent into quarantine. 3 hospitalized patients on Chung Kwan All Hospital's General Medical Ward have come down with COVID. The authorities said the hospital has already stopped admitting new patients to the affected ward. Health officials said the rising number of infections is due to the various transmission chains in the community.
And this may be due to the relaxing of social distancing measures in late May, and with a restaurant opening for longer, this will give rise to more cases in the community. We see that the daily caseload is rising steadily instead of a spike.
They noted most of the infected cases are mild or asymptomatic. Asked whether COVID cases will peak in July, the authorities said it is hard to make an estimation for the time being.
It's affected by several factors. For example, the overall social immunity, the vaccination status. So different factors will affect how this wave will play out.
Health officials also suggest that the public should observe COVID control measures and undergo COVID screening if they have any symptoms. Christy Khan, TVB News.
Group of 7 countries have reportedly had productive discussions with China and India about a plan to cap the price of Russian oil. Reuters is reporting that following the G7 discussions yesterday, the 2 major oil consumers would have incentives to comply. Western sanctions still allow many countries to buy Russian crude, and India and China have upped their purchases at steep discounts. The report said the 2 countries would be able to buy Russian crude even at lower prices under the plan. While the price per barrel cap level has not yet been determined, it would also have to be high enough to give Russia an incentive to keep producing oil. G7 leaders also agreed to explore imposing a ban on transporting Russian oil that has been sold above a certain price, as part of an effort to reduce Moscow's revenues and deplete its war chest. Welcome back to TVB News. Turkey has lifted opposition to Finland and Sweden joining NATO as the leaders of 40 countries convene in Madrid for the NATO summit.
The organization is facing its most serious crisis since World War II after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Matthew Bray reports.
After urgent high-level talks between the leaders of the three countries, Turkey has agreed to allow Sweden and Finland into NATO. NATO operates by consensus, and Ankara had threatened to block the Nordics from joining unless they change their stance on Kurdish rebel groups that Turkey considers terrorists. With an accord signed, Turkey said it had got what it wanted.
Finland and Sweden, of course, are ready to work with Turkey on the pending deportations or extradition requests of terror suspected individuals. But at the same time that this extradition process will take place in accordance with the European Convention on Extradition.
Stoltenberg said leaders of the alliance will issue a formal invitation to the two countries to join today. The decision needs to be ratified, but that looks likely to occur within months. The reasons for the Nordic pair joining needs no explanation. The Russian invasion of Ukraine is front and centre as leaders arrived in Madrid. For the first time, the leaders of Japan, Australia, South Korea and New Zealand are attending the summit as guests. Stoltenberg says the Russian aggression has meant a fundamental shift in NATO's approach to defence. At the welcome dinner, it was left to King Felipe of Spain to spell it out gently.
The Madrid summit must stand for the future. It must provide conviction, the guidance and the necessary instruments for us to adapt to this new strategic reality and to walk with determination towards a future in which our societies can feel safe and live in peace.
The mayor of Kyiv spelled out rather more bluntly that should Ukraine fall, that is just the start.
Moldova is going to be next. Food crisis, it's just the beginning. Economical crisis. If it's not going to be stopped now, all of us are going to be affected. The free world, so-called free world, is going to be affected. And NATO and the world society needs to learn how to act fast.
This as the United States announced its presence in Europe will get bigger with a permanent headquarters in Poland, and it will beef up air capabilities in the UK, Italy, Germany, Romania and the Baltics. Matthew Bray, TVB News.
Indeed, a great.
More stunning revelations during the House committee meeting investigating the 2021 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th.
Former White House aide described how former President Donald Trump got into a physical confrontation with the head of the Secret Service while his supporters attacked the Capitol building. This report from NBC.
Tonight, explosive new testimony from a Trump White House insider, Cassidy Hutchinson, that as the riot was starting to unfold at the Capitol on January 6th, there was a dramatic physical confrontation inside the presidential limousine between former President Trump and the head of his own Secret Service detail, Bobby Engel, after Mr. Trump was told his security would not take him to the Capitol.
Once the president had gotten into the vehicle with Bobby, he thought that they were going up to the Capitol, and when Bobby had relayed to him, we don't have the assets to do it, it's not secure, we're going back to the West Wing. The president had very strong, a very angry response to that.
Hutchinson, a top aide to Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, says a senior staffer told her what happened in the motorcade moments after the president's speech, that an irate Mr. Trump tried to grab the steering wheel.
The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Renato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
Hutchinson saying even before his rally, Mr. Trump was aware of the potential for violence at the Capitol when he was told some supporters were armed and would not go through security.
I overheard the president say something to the effect of, "I don't effing care that they have weapons. they're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here.
Hutchinson says she first heard of plans for President Trump to make an unannounced trip to the Capitol from Rudy Giuliani days before January 6th. Plans alarming then White House counsel Pat Cipollone.
Mr. Cipollone said something to the effect of, please make sure we don't go up to the Capitol, Cassidy. Keep in touch with me. We're going to get charged with every crime imaginable if we make that movement happen.
And she described flashes of anger from the president, saying she walked in after he threw his lunch across the room following Attorney General William Barr's declaration that there was no widespread voter fraud.
I first noticed there was ketchup dripping down the wall, and there's a shattered porcelain plate on the floor.
There was no cross-examination today on the Democratic-led committee that Republicans have slammed as partisan. While Mr. Trump responded, I hardly know who this person, Cassidy Hutchinson, is, calling her a total phony and leaker, who he says is very upset and angry because he turned her down for a job when he left office, writing, her fake story that I tried to grab the steering wheel is sick and fraudulent. Her story of me throwing food is also false. And, quote, I didn't want or request that we make room for people with guns to watch my speech. Who would ever want that?
Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has told Scottish lawmakers that she plans to hold another referendum on Scotland's independence on October 19, 2023. Sturgeon said it was time to revisit the matter because of the changes brought about by Brexit. However, any vote for independence would not be legally binding without approval from the Conservative government of Boris Johnson.
My determination is to secure a process that allows the people of Scotland, whether yes, no or yet to be decided, to express their views in a legal constitutional referendum so that the majority view can be established fairly and democratic.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.